How can we know the way? With the advent of GPS and other such devices, it's a question that is asked a lot less nowadays, isn't it? But it's still a very common question. How can we know the way to the supermarket? How can we know the way to pass this test? How can we know the way to rise through the ranks? But all those questions are shallow in light of the ultimate question, and that's the question that Jesus gets asked in John chapter 14, verse 5. It says this, "Lord, we don't know where you're going, so how can we know the way?" As I said, that's the ultimate question. Or to put it another way, how can we know the way to God? Now, I don't know how you would answer that question. Perhaps you'd say that the question is moot. There is no God, so why should I bother listening to this at all? Well, if you are thinking that, I'd encourage you to have a look at John's Gospel and just see what you make of it. But even if we were to move past that objection, there are many different answers given by all sorts of voices in the world today. And many of those answers actually contradict each other. Keep the rules. Copy this or that person. Be good. There's lots of answers. But what if God himself told us the answer? If God told us the way to God, well, that would answer the question, right? And that's what John, in his Gospel, is claiming to give us. A claim that is supported by a lot of evidence. John gives us the answer, what Jesus says next, in John 14, verse 6. Jesus answered, "I am the way, and the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Now, I want us just to notice two things that Jesus says. I'd love to know what you think of them, but two things. The first is that Jesus says he is the way. As I said, there are a lot of competing views on how you can get to God. Enlightenment, doing good works, simply going up as high as you can. But none of those claims focus on one person. You see, they all focus, at least in part, on our own effort. Yet here, Jesus is making an audacious claim. A claim so massive that if anyone else were to say it, well, you'd say they're egotistical. Jesus is claiming here that he is the way. Even for the Jews of Jesus' day, this was shocking. If you were to ask them, if you wanted to get to God, well, you'd follow God's way found in his law. But here, Jesus is saying you can get to God through him. Not by following a certain set of rules, not by being a good person, simply through him. And the second thing here is that Jesus is saying he is the way. Perhaps that struck you as I read it earlier. Perhaps you're thinking to yourself, wow, that's pretty exclusive. But just think about it for a moment. In a world where there are so many competing views and ways, and as I said, those ways all contradict each other, isn't it a good thing that there is one way? I'm glad that there is only one door into my house, for example. It means that my friends, when they're allowed to again, know where to go in order to see me. It means I only have to lock one door at night rather than traipsing through my house. It removes all the confusion and the worry about getting it right. I am the way, and the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. I'd love to know what you think of that. Jesus is nice and simple to understand, isn't he? Maybe you hadn't thought about this question before today. How can we know the way? Maybe you've been thinking this question for a while. It's more important than knowing the way to the supermarket. And the answer is right there, from Jesus' own mouth to your ears. So what are you going to do with it?